In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to build a high converting product page for your manufacturing company. I'm going to break everything down step by step so it's really easy for you to apply to your website right now. After working with over 500 companies in the past 15 years, I can tell you that having a well-designed page is only one small part of the process, which is why I'm not just going to be covering page design. I'll be walking you through the exact structure you need to turn visitors, browsing products into new customers for your business. So if you've been stuck with a manufacturing site that doesn't convert as well as you think it should, or you're just not sure what to change to start seeing results, this video is for you. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do to create a product page that converts visitors into customers over and over again. Before we get into what goes on a page, we first need to talk about why most manufacturing product pages fail to convert customers in the first place. I see a lot of companies doing one of two things. They either dump a massive wall of specs on the page with no context or structure, leaving visitors overwhelmed, or worse, they create bare bones pages with just a product name, a blurry image, and a contact us button. Both options ultimately ruin the customer's buying experience because they're treating product pages like they're just part of a digital catalog. When somebody lands on your product page, they're not just casually browsing. They're actively trying to figure out if this product solves their problem and meets their exact requirements, which means the only way to get them to convert is to give them everything they need to make that decision confidently and quickly. That means answering all their questions, handling all their objections, and convincing them that your product is the right choice. Neither of the two extremes I just described actually does that, because creating a high converting industrial manufacturing page takes more than just a few nice pictures and some fancy design. You need to take a potential customer all the way from general curiosity to complete certainty that they want to buy. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do. Now, the first thing you need to understand is what actually goes on a high converting product page, because without the right structure and components, all you'll be leaving visitors with is confused on where to look, what matters, and what to do. So to keep things simple, it's best to organize your page into 4 specific components. Everything that comes above the fold, your spec organization, your visuals, and your social proof. Each one of these serves a completely different purpose in moving your visitors towards a sale. Everything above the fold is what visitors see the first few seconds they land on your page. It needs to tell them that they're in the right place and give them a clear expectation of what your product is, why it's relevant, and how they can buy it. If you don't satisfy those requirements, chances are your visitors are simply going to bounce before they see anything. Next up is your spec organization. It's where you break down all of your technical information. And in this case, you can't just throw as much information on the page as possible. You need to strategically cater to both engineers and procurement teams, which means breaking up your specs into easily understandable parts. At the same time, your visuals should be high quality and functional. Instead of just generic stock images, you should take the chance to really show off what your product can do and how it can solve things for your customer. And lastly, you need social proof, something to seal the deal. Instead of just the same old reviews or general testimonials, you need to showcase how your product has performed in the past and why it was worth the investment to your clients. Now, only by nailing all 4 of these can you create a page that actually answers all of your visitors' questions, guides them to the right conclusion, and makes it obvious that your product is the right fit for them. But let me show you what this actually looks like in practice. All right, let's start by breaking down the 4 different sections we talked about for product pages, starting with above the fold. So in this example, this is one of our clients, Lamont, and I think it's a really good example of what an above the fold section should be for any sort of manufacturing product page, because what it really does is it captures all the key stuff that you want in a glanceable area. So when we're looking at this, first our eye's going to anchor on the left hand side and we're going to take a look at the product image. And in this case, we have a pretty detailed product image that shows everything that's in one of these kits, which is great. But then you have the ability to actually flip through a few subsequent images that highlight specific facets of this kit. So we have, something that's highlighting the main device and kind of showing you a little bit more about that. And then we have a few different explainer videos that go into even further detail about the components of the kit. So really good visuals here right off of the bat that kind of show you what you're getting. On the right hand side, we have a clear title that's prominent. That's the name of the particular product. We have an order code number, which is important in their case, and then like a high level overview of the product itself. So this marketing copy that's here is really meant to satiate kind of the needs of procurement or general business buyers, and is less geared towards engineers, but an engineer can still read this and not necessarily be deterred by it. We have a prominent where to buy call to action, so if somebody is convinced, they can click on that and then go find stores nearby where they can purchase this. But if we glance down a little bit further, we have some some tab sections here that break out features, specifications, accessories, downloads. Each one of these, when expanded, give you some really good details, right? So under features, again, high level overview of the feature description, and then some of the specific testing features in this case that are highlighted here. So again, great for that procurement person who needs to check off those boxes. For the engineer who's more interested in the specs, you can click open specifications and get more of the, the granular details that one might need to know for this particular product. Accessories will then highlight, other products within their line that work within this core product that we're looking at. Again, all visible in one area. And then if we take a quick look at downloads are going to make things like helpful guides and stuff like that easily accessible. So in this one little section, there's just so much information jam-packed in here that's valuable. And with the way that it's structured, it's not overwhelming because we have things that are kind of strategically broken up left to right and then into these tab sections. So really kind of creates, an everything you need scenario in that top section. If we jump over to a different client of ours, Desk Case, and we take a look at their specification section, in this case, this client and their product line requires more explanation, more breakout in terms of specification features than the Lamont example. So there needs to be a little bit more of an expanded view. So in this specification section that comes after their hero header section, you can see there's a lot of components of their hero header that align with what is being done for Lamont, but we don't necessarily have that tab section. Instead, we've opted to have more of a breakout lower on the page. One particular thing I think that was done really well on this site is the visualization of the product to the features breakout. So here there's an image that kind of highlights the different points of the product and then connects that with what those actually mean in terms of features. I think this could be a really valuable way of highlighting this, especially with maybe more technical products or products that have a lot of different moving parts. Some sort of visualization like this could be really valuable. As you scroll down and you get into specifications, they're broken up into a table format, a little bit different than your standard table format in this case, but cleanly laid out, broken into sections, and has all of the important technical details that an engineer would really want. If you scroll even further down, you can take a look at adapters. So again, similar to the accessories in the previous example, there's a number of different adapters that can be applied to this product. Downloads brings you to the spec sheets, and then there's a more to buy section here. So again, another way of kind of breaking this out, and in this case, because there's more information to be communicated, it's a different visualization in order to do so. So in both of these examples, when we're talking about visuals, it's actually product photography for them because they are relatively small in scale products. But when you're thinking about something that might be really large scale, think about like an entire mechanical system, you might not be able to take effective photographs. And that's where this RIX example from VJT is a really good example for how do you depict something that's larger scale. So rather than trying to capture photos, in this case, they're opting for actual 3D renders of their products. So you still have a really clean look, really high quality imagery. You can see the entire device, which is great. And it allows you to do more than you would. Like it'd be really difficult to try to take a photograph of this in isolation in a factory. And even if you did, you might have a lot of other equipment around it that distracts from it. But in this case, because it's a render, you really have control of how you display it. Now, this isn't a client of ours, and if I was to try to take this to the next level, I would like to think about how can I maybe incorporate into the design a way to really zoom in and explode the visuals of this so I can get into the details. It'd also be really cool to maybe incorporate something that's a little bit more interactive. So think about like doors being able to open and close. Those are things that can be done in a modern website. They chose not to do that here, but with something like a really high quality 3D render, you can execute those things. So worth the investment, especially if you have a large scale, high footprint product that wouldn't do well in traditional photos. And then last but not least, I want to focus on our client, Boston Dynamics, and how we've incorporated social proof into their page. So lower on their product page experience, we're kind of actually doing a dual purpose here. So we have a testimonial breakout. So you get a pull quote from one of their customers on the page that talks about, just how effective Stretch was for kind of transforming their manufacturing line. But then in that same section, we're also linking to a case study for this particular customer. So you did want to go and read a little bit more about that particular use case, you can directly from this product page. So it's kind of like a double whammy social proof section, right? So we have testimonial for the folks that just kind of want to see the testimonial. We have the case study for the folks who want to go a layer deeper. But if you can capture all these components on your product page, you're going to have a really strong winning product page no matter what. Now, if you don't want to waste time learning how to build a high converting product page for yourself, book a call using the link in the description below. We've worked with over dozens of manufacturing companies and have built over 100,000 web pages and became consistent sources of revenue for our clients. So if you'd like to see if we can do the same for you, book a call using the link below. But either way, building a solid product page is just half of the equation, because if no one ever lands on your page or they don't know what to do after you've convinced them you're the right choice, nothing else matters, which is where the last two components come in, SEO and CTAs. And here's why they're so important. For starters, SEO is what gets people to your page in the first place. It's what makes your product easy to find when engineers, procurement teams, and other general buyers start looking at options. And once they find the product, your CTAs are what guide them to take the next step and reach out. Because once somebody is convinced your product is right for them, they need to know what to do after they made that decision. Whether that's talking to sales, ordering a sample, or requesting a quote, a strong CTA should give visitors an easy way to turn interest into action. And by only optimizing for both of these elements, you can start drawing in more visitors and converting them with more appealing CTAs. So let's show you how to implement both of these components on a site. All right, so in this example, we're going to talk about the Aerotech site and kind of some of the things that we're doing in regards to SEO optimization as well as CTAs on this page. If you have a large scale manufacturing site, you're going to have tons of different products. In many cases, you might have products that are like proprietarily named. So you might get searches off of just, whatever the name brand identity is. But it's also really important to make sure that these pages are going to rank for whatever their non-branded names are as well. So that's where SEO can be a critically important thing. So in this particular example, there's a few different things strategically happening on this page that lend to their SEO. So first and foremost, we have the inclusion of breadcrumbs on these product pages. When you're dealing with a complex product library, breadcrumbs actually serve two purposes. One, they can be really handy from a user experience perspective, so you can just kind of quickly, see where you're at organizationally on a page. Also, they're really good from an SEO perspective because what they do is they kind of automatically build in cross links to your site. So for the main category page, in this case, motion control systems, this individual product page is linking back to it. So that improves the structure of the motion control systems page, and it improves the authority of the product page that we're looking at right now. Now we have the H1 for the page is anchored on the name of the product. So if somebody's searching for that product directly, they can easily find it as a connection point. And then below that, we have a pretty detailed description that's using both branded and non-branded terms strategically to make sure that content shows up in both cases in search engine. And because it's prominently on the page and it's in this above the fold section, it's going to get higher indexing and higher authority on the page. As you scroll down the page, you'll see that we have this detailed specifications section. So another version of the specification sections that we were looking at earlier. In this case, we have tabbed content. And if I tab through these pages like I'm doing now, you can see how much detail there is in each one of these tab sections. So the content that is structured in there allows us to, further rank for key terms. From a call to action perspective, as you can see in the hero section, we have a call to action really clearly prominently there. There's also, the persistent call to action in the navigation itself. So this makes it really clear if I've landed on here and this is the right product for me, I know where to go to take my next steps. And that's exactly how you create a product page for manufacturing companies that converts. But this is just one page on your website. So if you'd like to see what it takes to build a killer homepage for your business, watch this video next. I'll see you there.